E-Magazine presents the 1801 tax policy of the Toussaint administration that may have led to the downfall of the general. Liberty, equality, French Republic, regulations. Toussaint Louverture, General-in-Chief of the Army of Saint-Domingue. My constant solicitude for the welfare of my country having brought to my knowledge the numerous abuses which are occasioned by the tax of 1/4 of subvention, I have determined to convert that tax into a simple duty upon objects of importation and exportation. And I order that taxes may be levied equally on all property to create a revenue stream based upon the income of household and several manufacturers, equivalent to that which is established on the incomes of plantations, so that the aggregate revenue may be sufficient for the payment of the army and of civil servants, who have a long time been without their salaries, but having never been able to procure an exact knowledge of the amount of the public revenues on account of the complexity of the present administration and the difficulties attending the collection of duties. My intention being to procure or provide correct information as to our resources, I have thought that the most easy and certain method to attain that end was to amplify the operations of the administration, which will at the same time free my fellow citizens from the expenses of collection, which are very considerable, and prevent a multitude of frauds and abuse. I, however, intend, after having obtained the correct statements of our expenditures and a receipt, to augment or diminish these taxes as the wants of the colony may require. In consequence whereof, I decree as follows. Article 1. From the date of the publication of the present declaration, the duties of 1/4, 1/16, and 1/20 of subvention levied on plantation revenues and received in produce are abolished. Article 2. All produce exported from the colony of whatever nature it may be shall pay a duty of 20%. Article 3. On the first day of each decade, the chambers of commerce of the colony shall fix the current prices of all colonial produce subject to the export duty, after which a table shall be made out and sent to the ordonnateur, who shall the same day send copies to all of whom it may concern, to serve as the basis for the collection of the 20% tax. The said tables shall be officially printed in the newspapers of the colony. The lowest price shall serve as the basis for the regulation of the tax. Article 4. All goods or merchandise imported into the colony of whatever value or quality shall pay an entrance duty of 20%. Article 5. The chambers of commerce for the colony, together with the consuls of neutral nations, shall fix on the first day of each decade the current prices of all merchandise imported into the colony, on the lowest prices of which the duty of 20% shall be levied, after which a table shall be made out and sent to the ordonnateur, who shall the same day send copies to all of whom it may concern, to serve as a basis for regulating the duty of 20%. The said table shall be officially printed in the newspapers of the colony every first day of a decade, and shall serve as a rule for the collectors during that decade. Article 6. No goods or produce shall be imported or exported into or out of the colony except at such ports as shall be designated by the government. Article 7. Custom houses shall be established at the ports designated for the imports and exports of the colony. The said custom houses shall be erected in such a manner that all goods imported shall enter at one gate and those exported at the other gate. For this purpose there shall be established 2 public wharves, one whereof shall be especially appropriated for imports and the other for exports. The public accountant shall be placed in the custom houses. Article 8. In each of the ports designated for imports and exports, there shall be appointed a collector of customs, a public weigher, and a searcher and a controller. It shall be the duty of the controller to constantly oversee the business of the other 3 employees. Article 9. The import and export duties shall be paid in specie. For this purpose, all merchandise or produce entering the custom house shall be weighed or valued, and the account of it delivered to the proprietor, with which he shall then report to the treasurer and pay his taxes. The said account shall be made out by the collector of customs from the certificate of the weigher and searcher, and shall be certified to be true by the controller of customs. No vessels shall be permitted to sail or receive a clearance unless the receipt of the treasurer answering to the account of the collector of customs shall be produced. Article 10. Every proprietor of a vessel or his representative shall be bound from the moment of his landing in one of the ports of the colony to deliver unto the ordonnateur or administration officer an invoice of his cargo, signed and certified by him. This ordonnateur will immediately send faithful copies thereof to the collector of the custom house and the military officer. These officers of custom houses will certify the cargoes agreeable with their invoice. All goods which shall not appear on the face of the invoice shall be confiscated for the benefit of the Republic. Article 11. All goods or produce taken in contravention to the regulation of the present declaration shall be confiscated for the benefit of him who, having discovered the fraud, will make it known to the government. Article 12. Every collector, weigher, searcher, and controller of the custom house who shall be convicted of prevarication, misrepresentation, in the exercise of his duty shall be summoned before a council of war, and if declared guilty, shall be judged and punished in conformity of the laws. Article 13. The trade from port to port in the colony shall be free, but no goods or produce shall be permitted to go from one port to another unless the captain has previously obtained a clearance. Article 14. Every port in the colony, except those designated for imports and exports, shall have for administrator only a receiver of the national property, who shall be appointed to receive the income of the sequestered estates, to receive the taxes upon houses and manufactures, to weigh the produce, to deliver receipts of duties, and to survey all goods or produce coming in or going out of his port. Article 15. Every vessel loaded fraudulently shall be confiscated for the benefit of the Republic. In consequence whereof, every officer of the administration who may know of any vessel not having paid the duties is authorized to order the unlading thereof, and to have a verbal process made in presence of the government commissioner or his representative, and of the justice of peace or his assistant. If the fraud is proven, the latter is to address the verbal process to the tribunals in order to have the confiscation ordered. And in case of the fraud not being proven, the goods or produce shall be reembarked immediately by the government. Article 16. The military commanders and municipal administrators are equally authorized whenever they may suspect any vessel to be fraudulently loaded, to request the administration officer to have that vessel unloaded. They shall be bound in the meantime to communicate to the General-in-Chief the motives of their behavior. Article 17. All of the houses in the cities and towns and landing places shall pay a duty of 20% on the amount of their rents. Article 18. During the time required by the municipal administration to have a general statement made to serve to the exact payment of his contribution, every inhabitant or householder will be bound to present during the first 15 days of his lease in the form unto the ordonnateur of his department or to the administrative officer of the place. The price of the lease shall be inscribed on the special register, and the 20% tax on the price of the lease shall be paid by the tenant or on account of the owner in 3 equal terms of 4 months. As soon as the statement shall be made, it shall serve as a basis for this tax. Article 19. Every owner living in his own house shall be bound to present himself before the municipal administration of the place within 15 days after the present declaration, in order to give information in reference to his house. The municipality shall proceed to the estimate of the value of the rent of the said house, and the verbal process thereof shall be addressed to the office of administration. The estimated price shall be described on the register for the lease of houses, and shall be the basis on which the 20% tax shall be paid, in 3 equal terms over 4 months. There shall be no alteration made in the engagements entered into with the rebuilders of burnt houses, those who shall be free from this tax until the expiration of their lease, as well as those who may be built in the future. Article 20. Every owner or tenant of a house who may not have obeyed the 2 foregoing articles of this declaration in the time prescribed shall be subject to a fine of 23% on the amount of the rent of his house. Article 21. Every manufacture of any nature whatsoever, such as distilleries, tanneries, lime manufactures, potteries, bricks kilns, and tile kilns, of which the manufactures is used in the colony, shall be subjected to a duty of 20% on the value of the objects raised or manufactured thereon. Article 22. For the more easy payment of the tax imposed on manufactures, an estimate shall be made of the value of their revenue between the proprietor or tenant, the controller of the navy, or his representative, and the government commissioner appointed for the municipal administration or his substitute, from which estimate of the duty of 20% shall be regulated. In consequence whereof, every manufacturer shall make his declaration in the form of subscription to the said ordonnateur or administration officer of the place, and the price paid in 3 equal terms over 4 months. Article 23. During the 15 days following the publication of the present declaration, every owner or tenant of a manufactory shall be held to present himself before the ordonnateur or administration officer of the place, to make a declaration of the manufactory he is in possession of, which said declaration shall immediately be sent to the ordonnateur or administration officer to whom it may concern, in order to proceed to the estimate thereof. Every owner or tenant of a manufactory who may not have obeyed this present article shall be subject to a fine of 1 year's tax. Article 24. Every holder of a plantation whose lease was granted by the administration and who was free from the subvention duty shall obtain a deduction of 1/3 from the price of his lease on account of the increase of export duties. That deduction shall take place from the date of the publication of this present declaration. Article 25. Those planters who have rented plantations whose leases were given by the administration on condition of paying besides the rent of the farm the duty of subvention, after adding together the price of the farm and the duty of subvention, which shall be still attached, shall receive a deduction of 1/3 of the total arising from these 2 sums, by way of the export duty. This deduction shall likewise take place from the date of the publication of the present declaration. These regulations shall be printed, read, published, and ported, addressed to all the civil and military authorities, and the execution thereof confided to their care and vigilance. All good citizens are invited to inform the proper authorities of such abuses and infractions of the declaration as may come to their knowledge. Given at the Cape Français, the 21st Frimaire, 9th year of the French Republic, one and indivisible, signed for the General-in-Chief, Toussaint Louverture.